Hurricane Florence has been downgraded to a tropical depression, but the damage left in its wake is being felt in commodities markets. Joining us to talk more about this and a lot more is Reuters correspondent Renita Young. Renita, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Renita, everyone is watching the storm, and it's sweltering in the Carolinas. It dropped a lot more rain than I think maybe a lot of people were prepared for. But as commodity traders look at this and as investors watch it, what are the things that they're seeing, and what are the big shifts that you're seeing in commodities markets?
Well, we're seeing a lot of the grains be affected. Some of the grains are being flooded. Soybeans, for instance, they're being flooded. And corn, however, is not being affected that much because much of the corn has already been picked for the season. People started picking it way back in August, early August. But the things that are making the biggest, that this storm is making the biggest impact on are the livestock. We have heard reports of, I've heard reports of from farmers, lagoons overflowing, they're flooding.
Ooh.
And it may possibly impact the drinking water out there. So it's that huge danger. And when the lagoons overflow and they may possibly impact the drinking water, that could bring bacteria like E. coli possibly,
Ooh.
Or even salmonella.
That's no
so
good.
these are really huge things that could happen as a result of the storms. And we saw this happen in 2016 as well with Hurricane Matthew.
How big of an impact can it have on the prices of soybeans? I mean, we had the chart on the screen just a few minutes ago, and we saw that it was in the red, down about $5 here today. But I mean, just over the next, in the short term here, over the next month or two, I mean, how big of an impact will it have on soybean?
So traders I talked to this morning too, they said that they don't expect a huge impact on soybeans because this is just one crop. Or on any of the other grains. However, there will eventually be a rise in prices because it's impairing the production areas. And at some point, this is going to trickle down to the consumers.
Oh, go ahead, Andy.
Well, I was wondering about hogs. I'm so glad you brought them up because
Yes.
you know this is
I know
it's near and dear to my heart. You know, right? Well, I don't know about that, but it's near and dear to my heart. So, but it doesn't sound like this is going to impact. I mean, it's interesting what you said about the water because that's critical for human beings, but it doesn't sound like hogs themselves are getting killed off. Sorry to ask that question, in the storm? I mean, they go to high ground or something?
They do. So a lot of the farmers, they've been moving their livestock to higher ground, and some of them are having trouble keeping control of cows, chickens even, because since their electricity is out, their electric fences are not working.
Ooh, wow.
So I talked to one farmer who said, we lost a cow. We recovered all the chickens and all the pigs, and we lost one cow.
But that big deal.
It was a big deal because that one cow was worth $1,500.
So cows running all around Wilmington, North Carolina. Get Michael Jordan back down there to get him. That's his hometown. That's all I know about Wilmington.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
Rob Demetrius, I think, is from there. Our colleague is
I think
from
he
there.
is.
Colleague Rob
Right around
Demetrius.
there.
Rob or Michael Jordan, either one.
Okay.
One of those two
wild
to wrangle
cows.
the wild cows
Yes.
that are out in North Carolina.
Yes.
If Michael Jordan or Rob Demetrius are watching right
Yes.
now, get out there, wrangle the wild hogs,
Come on,
and the
Michael.
wild horses and the wild cows. Renita, I want to talk about price spikes though, because it doesn't seem like we've seen, despite the magnitude of the storm, any spiking in commodities prices, at least over the past few days. Is that something that you or the traders you speak to are expecting to see?
They're expecting this a little bit further down the line. So much like your earlier panelist said, it'll be a delayed reaction because these aren't necessarily the crops that are going to be affected by this storm. So it may be the crops in the next quarter that would be affected. So it's quite possible that prices may not rise substantially until then.
And if we do see that rise, do you think that's going to have a larger impact on inflation or GDP, or do you think that's going to play itself out in the data in a noticeable way?
It may possibly. So a trader I talked to this morning, he said it's inevitable that it'll make prices increase and that there will be some inflationary concerns. Whether or not it'll play out in such a larger way in the GDP is still unknown, unfortunately.
Interesting. All right, well, we'll just have to keep watching and people will keep having to read. And by the way, you host a program called The Gold Watch on Reuters as well. Any impact from gold for this?
Not yet, actually. I talked to a couple folks this morning who said they don't expect this to impact gold prices or precious metals prices. But precious metals have been pretty subdued anyway over the last couple of years. Certainly a storm from North Carolina where no gold is mined would not impact prices at this point.
Well, I just had to make sure.
Did you see that lean hogs chart up there?
I did see the lean hogs chart. It's a big chart. That's people got to watch the lean hogs. It's a price that not a lot of people know. Renita Young, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.